Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics in this video, as I'm still waiting for the Stormont election results. Where's electronic voting when you need it? I'll be talking about the pressure that the Tory client press have tried to bring to bear on Durham police, who've now launched another investigation into Keir Starmer over his work in Curry. I'll be discussing what the Tories expect to gain from it and how Labour could actually turn it to their advantage. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. Also, link in the description below to Max Robespierre's channel, where I'll be appearing in a live stream this Sunday. And remember, we'll be doing a live stream on this channel later tonight. So, Durham Police, they've announced that they will, after all, reinvestigate Labour's Hartlepool campaign meetings as a result of significant new information. It seems the significant new information may well be that the Tory media keep going on about it and they're not going to go away until they get what they want. And I'm serious about that. Yes, I'm a Labour supporter, but there's no tribalism here. Unlike Boris Johnson supporters, I'm not dismissing action against Starmer on the basis that everyone was doing it, or that the public aren't interested, or there's a war on. The bottom line is, no new information has come out. If it had, the Daily Mail would gleefully have reported on it. Bear in mind, they've run this story 8 days on their front page out of the last 10. There's no way they wouldn't have reported new information. How on earth do you report on the same thing for 8 days and if you've got new information, not publish it? You know, all they're trying to do is draw parallels with what Johnson did and what Starmer did and go, oh, what's really the difference? But although that may fool members of the public, it can't fool people who are referring to the legislation. As I've said before, the times where Johnson transgressed the law, there were strict limits on the numbers of people who could gather. Wasn't the case when Starmer's Hartlepool meeting. As long as he was working as he says he was, then it's fine. And there's no reason to suppose otherwise. Doesn't even need to have been working when he had his curry and beer. As long as all people were doing was stopping for a perfectly legal meal, it was fine. Daily Mail got nothing here. They ran this story to try and save the Tory blushers during the local elections. Now, like I say, I can believe that some people will believe that maybe Starmer was up to no good, that it is having an effect. But it clearly didn't have much impact on the election results. I mean, look at them. And it serves them no purpose now, because there are no elections anymore. Plastering it across their front pages today, while the investigation carries on, can only do two things. First, allow Tory MPs and Johnson himself to deflect from any tricky questions in Parliament from Labour with accusations against Starmer. Hopefully this investigation will be carried out quickly to limit the amount of time that this works for. Secondly, to let the possibility that Starmer broke the law seep into the public consciousness. Remember, these papers can report something misleading one day, and then if they cross over a line, even issue a retraction, fewer people will read the retraction as read the original story. Again, the sooner this nonsense is resolved, the better. Of course, the reinvestigation should not really be happening at all, as far as I can tell. The police should have just written back to the Tory Durham MP to thank him for his letter, explain that no laws were broken, point out that the MP himself boasted about having a work curry in the same week as Starmer was having his, and inform him that they are pleased to say that he broke no laws either. However, not an expert in police procedures, maybe they did have to reopen the inquiry, don't know. I've just not seen any independent experts say why this would reasonably be the case. In addition, it's clear that Durham police have not behaved entirely professionally themselves, because they announced the reinvestigation to the Tory media before they even informed the people actually being investigated, including Keir Starmer. Grounds for a complaint immediately there. It sort of smacks of the Cliff Richards situation, wasn't it? But what should Starmer and Labour do about it? The natural thing for people to do is act defensively. Say, as they have been doing, look, we did nothing wrong. This latest inquiry is just the result of pressure from the Tory media. But that is to miss an opportunity. Starmer can go on the attack here. Because here's the thing. He's a skilled lawyer. He can read laws. He will know what the law was. He will know if there might have been any activities which happened around him or by him which could fall foul of them. He will also know that this was the same police force who didn't even punish Dominic Cummings when he actually drove across the country with his family whilst infected with COVID and went out in public. At this point, we're into I'll eat my hat territory if Starmer gets tripped up here. So take full advantage. I saw a few people saying, Keir Starmer should make a statement saying that he would resign if found to have broken the law. This would give him immense power when he's not found guilty and pile more pressure on Johnson. I fully agree. I'm not saying that this stunt from the Daily Mail could end up backfiring as a net effect. I still think there's net damage being done here because they're making people mistrust politicians in general, a cynical and quite deliberate ploy. But Labour could gain some advantage out of the mess. And why not? The way I do it, make a statement making clear no laws were broken, that this has come as a result of Tory client media pressure, but to say that he stands by his remarks and that this country deserves an honest, law-abiding leader if he is found to have broken the law, no matter how inadvertently, and any appeal he's entitled to fails, he will resign. There'll be no excuses about, oh, I didn't mean to, I didn't realise. He will accept full responsibility. And he can say, and unlike with the Conservatives, when Labour accepts full responsibility, it means it. Or something like that. Make a powerful statement to recapture the narrative, because that will then heighten the level of interest in the public. They'll move away from dismissing all political leaders as basically dodgy to wanting to know how it turns out, because the stakes have been raised. Starmer will be claiming the moral high ground. If he holds it, Johnson looks even dodgier. And it's not a risky move for Starmer, because let's be honest, let us even imagine that he had broken the law. There's no way Starmer could remain as Labour leader if he's found guilty. The party would tear itself apart if he tried. There would be civil war again if he resigns, of course, but nothing like as bad as if some tried to keep a criminal leader in charge. And in the public, that'd go badly as well. Yes, the public would blame Johnson more. Johnson is more guilty. He made the rules, not Starmer. His rules breaking was more blatant and more frequent. He lied about it in Parliament. But if Starmer resigned, there would be no taint on the Labour Party, unlike with the Tories who've backed their leader. Because Labour wouldn't have tried to defend the indefensible. In fact, they look the more trustworthy, because here's this leader that people are now talking about as being the next Prime Minister. Here's this leader who is reclaiming Labour ground. And yet the Labour Party will just go, thanks very much, but you're gone for his one transgression. That makes them look immensely trustworthy. I even wonder if it would not have been better for the Tories if the police did refuse to reinvestigate Starmer. Because then they could just carry on claiming how unfair it is to punish Johnson over cake and not Starmer over curry, as if it's got anything to do with either of those things. Focus the public on red herrings. I wonder how the Daily Mail will spin the result of the inquiry. Assuming there was nothing untoward, that is. Maybe now that Cummings is no longer part of Team Johnson, they could point to the fact that this is the same police who let Cummings off Barnard Castle. Because it's not even like you could bring the Daily Mail up defending Cummings. I don't think they did, actually. I don't think they tried to cover for him when it was topical, in all honesty. But they've got no reason to even try now. They won't let this one go. I suspect they know Starmer broke no laws. After all, they knew about this shortly after it happened. They didn't make a big deal of it. They reported on it, but they didn't make a big deal of it. They certainly didn't try and point to Labour leader breaking the law. But they need some dirt on him, and this is all they've got. They tried to smear him by attacking him for spending money on saving abused donkeys. That didn't work, as it turns out people like animals. But I would still generally be happy to see the Mail seeing Starmer as such a threat to them that they have to run a front page smear campaign for basically 2 full weeks. But as I've said before, the response here is not to whine about it, not to get defensive. Go on the attack. The best form of defence is attack. It's in sport, in warfare and in politics. Take control of the story. Take control of the narrative. Use it to put Johnson under pressure. If Labour just try and ignore it, then when the investigation is over, what have they gained? Nothing. There'll be no boost, no extra pressure on Johnson. But I am a bit disappointed to see Labour behaving as if they're irritated by this. Red rag to a bull. I've always worked on the principle of trying to avoid taking offence or being irritated by ourselves on a personal level. The way I see it is this: if someone does or says something personally offensive, they either mean it or they don't. If they don't mean it, then it's impolite to take offence. They didn't mean any harm, they were just clumsy. But if they did mean it, it's far funnier not to take offence. Nothing infuriates an arsehole more than laughing at their attempts to piss you off. If I were advising Labour, I'd say stop scowling, start smiling. Beaming even. Love it. Oh, I love that. Just an excuse to distract from crushing local election results and the general impotence of Boris Johnson. Act like it. Say it. This is hilarious. Is this the best they've got? This is funny. It's a waste of public money because they're wasting police time. Now, I'm not happy about that. But in general terms, I find this hilarious. Finally, worth debunking one more bit of nonsense. Some Tory commentators have said, Starmer called for Johnson to resign over partygate before the police had even fined him, just when the investigation began. So shouldn't Starmer resign just for being under investigation? The answer is, of course, no, for several reasons. First, he has already been investigated. It's already been done and dusted. This is just a rerun. Even those Tory commentators didn't call for him to resign at the time he was being investigated because they knew there was nothing in it. Second, Starmer called on Johnson to resign over lying to Parliament about the parties. He increased the pressure when the criminal investigation started, but the calls were aimed at his breach of the ministerial code. Third, there were already loads of evidence that Johnson had broken the law before the police even thought about investigating. In fact, the police refused to investigate for months, remember. They only did it when the evidence was so overwhelming that they had no choice. A casual comparison between what is publicly known and the wording of the legislation at the time meant offences were clear. So that's just petty political games as well. Take home from this, if this is all the Tories have on Starmer, if this is the best they can do, and these local elections they prioritise very strongly, if this is all they've got on him, then they are right to be worried about him. Oh, and depending on how Labour decide to play this, it could actually do Johnson more harm than Starmer. Unfortunately, I've seen no evidence yet that Labour see this as an opportunity to go on the attack. Shame, really. But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button. Maybe even click on the join button if you'd be interested in memberships. And until next time, I'll see you later.